Why, hello! If you're new here, and maybe if you're not, then you probably know what time it is. I make a lot of art and book related videos, and today I'm here with a part two with my Percy Jackson videos where I directly compare the TV show to the books, going chapter by chapter, and literally comparing all the tiny, minuscule details and talking about all the other changes and additions that they've made. If you have not seen already, I did release part I did release a part one to this where I went through the first two episodes and compared that directly to the first few chapters that it is adapting. And so today I'm back with the next part. I'm going to be doing episodes 3 and 4 today, in the correct corresponding chapters, and we're just gonna go through, read the book, know all the important details and changes, and then talk about the changes and additions, and if I'm upset about them, if I think they made sense, and all that other sort of jazz. Because I do not always hate the changes because I'm someone with not a lot of insight, but a good amount of insight into how the filmmaking world kind of works and how what goes into that and how like you truly can't make certain things into television. It's just some things are just super hard. So I am a lot more lenient with the changes than some other Percy Jackson fans who are like, oh my gosh, no, it has to be word for word with the book. I talked about this in um my first video a little bit. If you're completely 100% a word for word adapting an a practically 300-page book, and you're not gonna be able to fully encapsulate everything in 8 episodes, 1 hour each. Like, no. And then also again, the reason that books are the medium that they are is because the things that you write about and talk about in books, sometimes you just cannot physically create that in a physical medium. That's why, like a movie or a TV show, that's why they are books. That's why, animation is animation, because they could not make that in a realistic way, if that makes any sense. Um, yeah, I talk a lot more about this in my first episode, in my first video, and I don't want to get back too much into that because that video is already 50 minutes. Um, and I was originally going to try to do all of the episodes in that video, and it was like, oh my gosh, I talked too much. So I had to just post the first two episodes. So today I'm getting in with the next two. Um, and yeah, we're just going to talk about it, read the book, and have some fun. Also, I got a new mic, guys. How fun. Um, my old mic really, really, really sucked. Um, and a lot of people were like, girl, the mic quality sucks. But it's like, I kind of needed the microphone because without the microphone, the audio quality sucked. You could barely hear shite. But yeah, we have a new mic. Um, and it works, and I love it. So yeah, without further ado, um, let's get into reading these chapters and discussing. Okay, I'm gonna try to rush through this because I have to I have to leave for my dentist appointment in like 20 minutes. Well, I don't have to leave in 20 minutes. I have to leave in like 35. But in 20 minutes, I have to go brush my teeth and like do all that stuff. And I'm trying to get this done before then. So I just read all the accompanying chapters, and I have my notes, and we are going to start the episode. So the show actually opens with an original scene of Clarice, um, going to the Oracle to actually receive her prophecy. And it's so sad. The person you see in the prophecy, the person that the oracle presents themselves to you is usually the person that you fear or hate the most. And the person that Clarice sees in the oracle is herself, and it's really sad. And I really like this season because you really get to see the journey and the development of Clarice throughout the entire series, and she is probably one of my favorite characters. Dahlia fave, Clarice second fave, Annabeth third. And I know what you're saying. Why is Annabeth your third fave? Um, they're all my favorites, but again, I have such a deep connection to Thalia. Okay, and you can't beat that. And again, same with Clarice. Like I just love angry girls. Okay, and yeah, the thing about the show is again, you are not directly following Percy's first perspective inner monologue, so you are gonna get the perspective and bits from other characters. And apparently, according to an interview that Leah Savage Jeffries did recently, we're actually going to get to see a lot more of Annabeth in season 3 while she's being, kidnapped by Luke. Um, but yeah, there's also some differences in the cruise ship Princess Andromeda scene. Um, Not too many differences, but I'll go through it. The best thing is it's an actual huge cruise ship. Like in the books, it's described as this huge cruise ship, and then in the Cursed Sea of Monsters movie, they make it a yacht, and it's like, oh my gosh, where are you fitting all these monsters? Um, but in the books, in the scene, all the mortals are like dazed and confused and acting like they're literally like under some sort of spell, which would probably be the charm speak. Um, and there are also just loads of monsters everywhere, like Dracone, snake women, like all sorts of monsters. Which I guess again they cut that due and like there's also like hellhounds and all sorts of stuff. So I get they did cut all that to budget, so we just see like all of the practical monsters. Like we see the giants again because they were used, they were made using practical effects, not CGI. So it's like they're a much easier monster to show on the screen. And then also, if you know Chris Rodriguez, he's already a part of Luke's Rebellion by this point. They actually see him on the ship. So all the like Clarice and Chris stuff drama, it's not really there. I kind of like it. It gives more depth to Clarice and Chris's relationship, and it also gives more depth to why Clarice eventually gets so close to Serena, Selena after Chris leaves, and like their relationship and their bestiehood and their other things. But yeah, the monster is beautiful. I mean, the cruise ship is beautiful. The only thing is, I know I'm gonna complain about this on the Princess Andromeda. Yes, it says the Princess Andromeda, but one of my favorite things is they have a sculpture of Andromeda from ancient Greece chained up on the bow of the ship, kind of imitating the actual way Andromeda was chained up on the rock. And yeah, I think the show would definitely be much more improved with Percy's actual inner monologue. Because again, the book is first person perspective. You are hearing I statements, and you are literally in Percy's mind, listening to his inner monologue. It would make a lot more sense and also help the story a little bit more if he was narrating the story more. I get it would sound kind of cheesy, but and not like it would make the show sound maybe a bit younger. Um, but I don't care. It would literally help with so much because again, there's these moments where Percy's like all of a sudden super smart. We don't get to see him actually make those calculations in his brain, and it takes a hot minute for him to make those calculations. And then yeah, once they get onto the cruise ship in the books, actually they're exhausted because they just like ran away at sunrise from the camp. So they take a nap. And Beth goes to her own room and she's like, "See ya." So they go to their own rooms. They change. They take a nap, and then eventually they wake up to like blaring over the what's it called, the overhead speakers, being like, "Good morning, sunshine! Welcome to the Princess Andromeda." Also, while Percy's taking his little nap on the Princess Andromeda, he has two dreams. One it's like one dream, but it like shifts between two sort of things. So the first part of the dream is he wakes up like in that pit in the underworld where he is just about to fall into Tartarus. And like Cronus is talking to him and taunting him, being like, you know, "Hello, little hero," blah blah blah. I cannot do a Cronus voice. And then eventually the dream shifts to Grover, and just like Grover like trying to hide and blend in as a Cyclops on Polyphemus' island. And then, yeah, they wake up, there's monsters everywhere, and they finally overhear Luke talking, and they follow him to everything. That whole fight with Allison and everything else that ensues, that is all completely new content. But also, again, Allison is our new character, so we do have to kind of like give her a developmental relationship with the other characters so she can be pushed forward. Also, Tyson's use of smelling monsters is a little more prominent in the books. In the show, he like just bursts out of the bathroom. He's like, "Oh, I smell monsters." The entire moment when they first get on the ship in the show, he's like, "It smells like rank in here," and they're like, "Oh." And then Percy's like, "He's like Grover. He can smell monsters." And I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, he's like, "What does it smell?" He's like, "Rank. It smells nasty." And eventually he's like, "Oh, I think it's monsters." And they're like, they look around and they're like, "Monsters." But that's before they even get into their private room on the cruise ship. Sorry, time to be nitpicky. And then, yes, of course, we get another original scene of Clarice leaving Half-Blood Hill, meeting with her father, and getting her cruise ship. Absolute beautiful. Loving the Clarice development, guys. Funny thing, Ares actually gives her Confederate soldiers in the book as like a funny like haha joke. No, not like a funny haha joke, but like like the Confederates lost, haha. There you go, have them. It would have been hilarious. Not like it would be hilarious. It would have been ironic if they used Confederates in the show because obviously Diarga John is a person of color, and Confederates are Confederates, so it would have been like hilarious. Ares essentially would have been punishing these guys, but instead he just like gives like random soldiers, which I guess is better because again Diarga John is actually a person of color and Confederate soldiers, blah, bunch of stuff. Yeah, we don't actually see this conversation in the book, but we assume she had a conversation with her father that took place in that at least this point in the book. And then yeah, she doesn't take any questmates because the prophecy has scared her. She is enticed. She is not enticed, but she's afraid of this prophecy. She's terrified. She doesn't understand it, and that's like all prophecies. You don't truly understand them. So she decides to be like a lone ranger on a road and just goes on her own. The inclusion of the keycard with Kronos' scythe on it is a very interesting inclusion that I think works really well for the story. Because in the books, he's kind of like Hermes is like, "I'm sending you on this mission to go save God of Luke." He's like, "Oh my god, no, whatever," and they get on it and they don't really understand what's going on until they actually literally overhear Luke and follow him. And they don't have like a key card on this in the book. So the key card is like it makes like logistical sense for how a cruise ship like actually works, but also again it is a good like piece of showing how Percy's mind slowly but surely pieces together these small connections. He sees the side, he thinks of Chronos, he goes, "Oh, this is Luke's ship. This is why Hermes sent me here." Brain power. Very similarly, they're eavesdropping and Tyson is like saying his thing and they go they're right outside the door and Luke bursts out and then it's like, oh my gosh. And then he also dresses exactly like a preppy boy in the show. I mean in the books too. It's horrible. But Luke doesn't give him like a full like tour of the ship. He like he takes the three of them into his room and it's like tempting them. Let me get my book out. Them and he's like, "Oh my gosh," like at first he's like, "Oh, what are you doing with a Cyclops? You're a traitor to Thalia, Annabeth, blah blah, yada yada yada." And then we see Backbiter on display, and they talk a lot more about Backbiter in the show. In the show, in the books, in the show we can actually we physically get to see Backbiter and his design, but I don't believe they ever physically talk about how Backbiter is literally half, blah, 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 blah. It's half celestial bronze, half steel, so it can harm not only gods and demigods, but it can also harm like mortals, and it's really messed up and sad. Yeah, he's got them in this room and they're like just doing this like back and forth yap session and he's like Kronos and like the age of the Titans and blah blah blah. And he's like, "Your dad sent me," which also does happen in in the show, and then like Luke gets really mad. He's like, "Don't you bring up my father? That my father abandoned me." Yada yada yada. Blah, 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 blah. And then Luke was like, "Well, think about all the money that you could get if you join Kronos. You could be rich." And Percy's like, "No, okay, what the hell?" And so a fight ensues. Well, first, actually Luke's belittling Percy a little bit, and Percy's like, "Don't you talk about my brother like that?" Attacks him, and then a whole fight ensues, and then they run away, get on the whatchamacallit, the lifeboat, and they speed away using the thermos. It happens completely differently in the show. Oh my lorsh. Let me. So they actually take Tyson away, to go like be with the Giants, and Percy's like, "Your dad told me yada yada yada," tempts him, and he's like, "Well, good, I'm never gonna change." We also do get to see Cronus' coffin in both the book and the show, and Luke gives his like speech, like, "With each one of us that joins, Cronus's body gets stronger. His essence from Tartarus gathers here, and it's like we're gonna make him a new body. If you know, you know." Again, in the books, Percy knows about like kind of about the Great Prophecy. He knows there's a big prophecy that involves him, but he doesn't know that like when he reaches his 16th birthday, yada yada. And in the books, he like mentions like wait till you reach 16, Percy. And Percy's like, "What'll happen when I'm 16?" It's like, "You don't know," blah, 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 and he tempts them. But he doesn't like talk to the extent of how Luke talks in the show, because Percy like again cuts him off and they just get into an argument. And again, Percy also both book and show goes, "I know what I need to know." Like he's happy being unaware. I actually quite enjoyed the inclusion of Luke showing them around the ship, and sorry, we don't use that word here. I like the inclusion of Tyson like playing with the giants and like making honestly friends with other monsters, because he is a monster, and that not all monsters are evil, and he like uses craftsmanship uses his gifts of craftsmanship to like work with the Cyclops. But this scene also again shows how intelligent Tyson is. He makes a bomb, and then also again directly is foreshadowing the next episode when the ship actually explodes, and Percy's like, "Tyson died in the explosion." He can breathe underwater, and he's explosion proof. My guy. I actually love Clarissa's speech and the development she gets. Her like, "Guys, let's go to Elysium" speech. Like, again, Clarissa's one of my favorite characters. I love the development she gets. I love that she's more than a mean girl. She is a complex female character. And there is so much more to her than what we think. Like, yeah, Queen, love her, icon. Also, Clarice does know the correct numbers, um, in the book, because Percy, spits them out, and that's how the quest is given. So her reasoning for finding Percy is a little bit different in the show compared to the books. In the show, she doesn't know the coordinates, and she needs to find Percy to get them out of him and use that. But like, it's completely different in the books. I haven't gotten to that part in the chapters yet because I haven't started, because I didn't think that far ahead. But I'll talk about that when I get to the next segment. But her reasoning for finding Percy is a little bit different. She does know the approximate coordinates. They escape on that, and then actually once they're on the lifeboat, they call Chiron, and they give him a quick recap. And again, Chiron's like, "Percy shouldn't really be on this quest, but keep him safe and do your stuff." And it's really sad. Um, and then actually they get chased by the Coast Guard, and Percy has to like kind of like navigate them out of there, and he realizes, "Oh, where we are," and he's like, "Oh, we're going this many knots per hour, and this is where we are." And then Annabeth is like, "Oh, it's gifts from Poseidon, gifts from your dad." Which they didn't quite include in this episode. But they do give so many cute, adorable, original Perspec moments that I love so much, and moves the story so much further. And then again, at the end of this episode, Annabeth essentially tells him the prophecy. He kind of knows the prophecy, but not fully. Again, I have to reread the Lightning Thief before I can get fully into this. Maybe I shouldn't have started with Sea of Monsters. But he doesn't know the gist of it, but the conversation about the actual prophecy between the two of them in the Sea of Monsters actually happens a little bit later in the book, I believe. yeah, end of episode. I have to go brush my teeth and get ready for my orthodontist. Not my orthodontist, my dentist appointment. Pray for me. I'll be back post surgery. For the next little bit. Okay, I have to turn my lamp on because the sun is setting. The sun is setting. Um, got my filling done. Absolute worst experience of my life. Regret it. Also, kitty cuddling. My cat just loves to snuggle with me. Anyways, so um, episode 4 is essentially the bat. Wait, let me go to my pages. Episode 4 is the back half of chapter 10 and the entirety of chapter 11. So the episode is a shorter episode. It's only 35 no, 38 minutes. Sorry, I need to add my prescription. It's only 38 minutes. So I it's understandable that it's so short because it's only like 1.5 chapters. But also, this is a very action heavy episode, so it makes sense that they would just try to do that entire one chapter in one episode. But also, again, yes, this is the Skilla and Charybdis fight. It's a very intense fight in both the books and the show, and the show does an incredible job of bringing it to life. Um, funny thing, because Percy Jackson is like for like tweens and stuff, Charybdis is described as like this gnawing, gaping mouth. But her teeth actually have like braces, and it's so funny. Again, my favorite thing with Percy Jackson is how they literally just like it's like Greek lore, but if Greek lore was in the 21st century with preteens, it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. My dad's home. Anyways, yeah, sorry, I need to drink some water. I'm thirsty. So I have my notes here. Episode 4 is this bit, and then so let's start combating. So similarly to the books, the show opens up with them finding an older hideout of Annabeth's from, back when Talia, Luke, and Annabeth were all on the run. The difference is in the show, they're in the sewers where they find like Annabeth's old hideout and like supply drop area. But the difference is it's actually it's in the forest kind of in the books. In the books, like after they get off the life raft. Sorry, they like wander off a little bit. They find an island and they wander off a little bit into the island, and they find this like woven hut, and inside is like a backpacks and like extra weapons and ambrosia and all sorts of stuff. And Annabeth recalls, oh, like this is one of the dozens of bases that they had back then. So Luke probably will remember it, but she remembers it, and it's a good place to restock and stuff. So they send Tyson out, and literally Percy goes to Tyson and it's like, go look around for food, maybe some donuts. And so Tyson literally wanders off into the forest going, donuts, 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 come here, donuts. It's funny. It's cute. They do a much better job of showing like, yes, he's young, yes, he's intelligent, but he's also like very young in the books like that. He's a child. He's like 8. That's baby. Um. So yeah, Tyson's just like wandering around in the woods, and Annabeth and Percy have this like deep conversation. And Percy's like, "What did Luke mean back then when he said that I would be with him?" And he's like, "Well, she wouldn't be with him. She just hates her dad sometimes. Like you hate your dad sometimes. I hate my mom sometimes. That doesn't mean we want to join his cause, And it's like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, and they have this really cute, like, deep conversation. And then Tyson comes back with a box of donuts, and he's like, "Guys, look, I found this donut shop." And like printed on the box of donuts, it says Monster Donut, and that's like, oh crap. And so they go out into the forest a little bit, and they find in the middle of the forest a monster donut shop. And the books, I mean, in the show it's a little bit different. I'll talk about that in a second. They find an actual donut shop. And like working inside is a monster, and Annabeth explains, oh yeah, do you ever wonder how like overnight fast food chains like just appear and they like get millions of dollars? Well, that's because the souls of monsters are deeply tied with magic to the food chains, and that's why they become so powerful and spread so rapidly, because they're powered by monsters. And he's like, wow, that's so great. Tyson was able to go in there. How was he not eaten? And it's like, well, Tyson is a monster, unfortunately. And so they're like having this discussion, and all of a sudden, a Hydra comes up behind them, and then they start like having to fight the Hydra, yada yada. And then Percy, being Percy, he cuts off the Hydra head, And guess what? Two more heads appear after this, like through, like once, because once you get Hydra head, two more appear. And then a little bit more in fighting and snares, and then all of a sudden they hear this voice, and it's yelling like, "Charge! Load the engines! Load the catapults!" And guess what? Yeah, it's Clarice. Clarice comes to save the day, and she blows up the Hydra and saves them. It's like, "I'm taking you hostage. Get on my boat." Okay. But they do it a little bit differently in the show. We have them find the little. They find their storage bin in the sewers. Annabeth finds a Monster Donut box that is actually a cereal box. So I guess Monster Donut would, like, if it's a franchise, it would have like other subsections, but it is an actual donut shop. And inside, like, she finds a bracelet which originally came from a Monster Donut box. And then we have a flashback ensue where, the first time Thalia, Luke, and Annabeth meet Grover, and you know, how their journey continues from there to Camp Half-Blood. And it's really sweet. I love, like, throughout the book, we don't get a flashback, but we do get Annabeth constantly talking about Thalia and how similar her and Percy are, and her past with both Thalia and Luke, and, like, when she was on the run. So we're getting a lot of that. So it makes much more sense that while Annabeth is, like, narrating to us her flashback, like, what she was going on, we actually get to physically see it's a flashback, because this isn't Percy's first point perspective. It is in a third point perspective. Again, just like we see the original Clarice scenes, we get to see original Thalia and Annabeth scenes. We get to see original Luke scenes. Like, this is a much deeper dive on the characters, which is why it is not one for one exactly like the book. This is a much deeper exploration than the books. And if you really do deeply love Percy Jackson, you will notice that, yes, this is a much deeper exploration on the characters and the story than just a copy-paste book made for middle schoolers. Not even. Yeah, and that's that scene. And I've been talking for too long. I have a very strong like and dislike with this part of not only the episode, but about the Sea of Monsters adaptation in general. But Annabeth is very, very prejudiced towards um, not only Tyson but Cyclopses in general. Um, and in the books, we understand the true reason why, and it is very deep and emotional for both Luke and Annabeth. And it's not as emotional in the show because they don't take the time to properly explain it. They show it, but they don't truly show the emotion that these characters live with after the fact. So if you didn't know, 3 Cyclopses are actually chasing Saya, Annabeth, and Luke when they're on the run. And then they meet Grover, and one day Annabeth decides to sneak out, and the 3 Cyclopses kidnap her. I believe, actually, the Cyclops kidnap her and Luke in the book, but it's a little further than the part where I'm at when they talk about the Cyclopses. But the Cyclopses kidnap them, and Thalia stops to fight them, which delays their timing. Um, and they, like, fight them all the way until, like, the borderline, and they're about to cross. And they finally defeat the Cyclopses, and they're about to cross. And all of a sudden, they're also being chased by the Furies and the Cyclopses, like, at the same time. The Cyclopses just so happen to kidnap them, and keep them in one spot, so the Furies had more time to come and get them. So they defeat the Cyclopses, and they're about to make it to Half-Blood Hill. They're right there at the border, and then the Furies appear, and and Thalia's like, take Annabeth to safety, go to safety. I got this. What ensues, yada yada yada. So it's a little bit different, but in the show, they say, oh yeah, 3 Cyclopses are following us. Thalia's fighting them, and then yeah, Annabeth sneaks out in the night. The 3 Cyclopses kidnap her, and then Thalia saves her. And then they're like, yeah, we kind of need to go to Camp Half-Blood to keep her safe. We go to Camp Half-Blood. What ensues? Yada yada. So, slight difference, but again, Annabeth, the Cyclopses setting them back and leading to Thalia's death, holds a very, very big impact on Annabeth and Luke, and it's the reason why her grudge is so strong against Tyson. And they don't fully explore it as much as I would have liked in the show. Just a little bit on that. I really love how the show also expands much more on Tyson and Percy's relationship. Showing how close they are, how they really truly are brothers, and they really truly care for each other, even though there is a part of Percy that is a little bit ashamed of having Tyson as a Cyclops, who is a Cyclops as a brother. But again, eventually, as time progresses, he kind of gets over that. He's like, this is my family. I don't have any other family, especially from Poseidon. This is the closest I'm gonna get to my dad. This is the closest to family besides Sally I'm gonna get. I better like cherish it. In the books, there is no debate over whether they're going to go more towards Scylla or Charybdis. Clarice has already decided she's going to sail through both of them, heading closer to Charybdis and putting off Charybdis. And that's how she wants to get to the Sea of Monsters. There's no deciding whether it's Scylla or Charybdis. But she's also not as close to the men of her ship in the books as the show. She has made no deep connection with them on how they are all like, essentially losers and they're nobodies. Like, she doesn't have that deep connection. They're just like these random Confederate soldiers who are just like, bound to do Ares' eternal war duties for the rest of their like, eternal deaths. So she doesn't really care about them that much. But she still didn't choose to go more towards Scylla. She's afraid that, Scylla will tear up the boat more than Scylla will eat the men. She needs the boat. So they agree they're gonna go towards Charybdis. So they're heading towards Charybdis. Everything's going pretty fine for the most part, and then Scylla starts attacking them and starts taking some men, and then like Charybdis really starts like spitting out water and like attacking them, and then all of a sudden Percy gets swept up by Charybdis. Oh, sorry, that's the plow. Percy gets swept up by Charybdis, not Charybdis, by Scylla, and he's like dangling thousands of feet in the air. And so he like slashes Riptide and at her, and then she lets him go. Oh, that's not the plow, that's the tow truck. Thank goodness. Um, So he slashes at Scylla, she drops him, and he's like, as he's free falling, the engine explodes, and then the thermos explodes, and then like kapow, everything goes black, and then he falls into the water. And as he's coming to in the water, we get that iconic quote, "I was drowning." I was sinking in an ocean, wishing I could have drowned because my brother was dead. I believe in ways I don't remember the quote, but yeah, we get that iconic quote, and it's really depressing and sad. And we truly get to see how close Tyson and Percy got. And then we also get the iconic scene where Tyson's like, "Brother, I have to do this. Like, let me fix the engines. I have to. I'm the only one capable of it." It's really cute. Yeah, that's the ensuing differences. I love that already this early on in the story we're learning that Luke already has history with Camp Half-Blood, and there's a reason he doesn't really like Half-Blood or the gods. We don't quite know yet, but we are going to know, and we already have these aspects. Like, he was not truly, again, into it. There's always a part of him that wanted to defect, that doesn't believe in the gods. Like, he didn't like his dad. He didn't. All the gods have given him are troubles. Like, he doesn't want to go here, but he went there for family. But again, there's that deep part of him that really didn't want to be here and hate the gods, and that was enough for Kronos to worm his way in. Also, in the books, Clarice and Ares do have conversations, but it's a little bit different than in the show. She gets the ship and the warriors by actually praying to her dad, and like they come to her. She doesn't have the conversation with her dad then, but later on when she's on the ship, her dad Iris messages her, and they're having this like argument. More like Ares is yelling at her, and like Clarice is kind of just like taking it. It's really sad. And again, Ares is like, what will happen if you fail? You better do good. I wish I sent one of my sons on this. He's not a good father. He's really rude to her, and it's really really sad. And just seeing the way Ares like kind of treats her over this one Iris message is like enough to show like this is the reason why she is the way she is. And then also, there's no conversation. There's not really a big conversation between Percy and Clarice about Clarice's prophecy. She just mentions like this means this. She just mentions like but the prophecy better not come true, and she's like kind of scared, end up coming home, fly home alone, fail without friends, and she's like really worried, and they're like, and Percy's like, what about the prophecy? And she's like, never mind that, and then like walks off. So she's very much keeping the prophecy to herself. She's very scared of it. And then of course we get this iconic moment where Annabeth tosses the charm that Luke gives her into the ocean, and the ocean spits it back up. It is very much foreshadowing a moment in the later books in Heroes of Olympus when Annabeth throws her dagger in a river and Percy uses his powers or Percy like senses it and he picks it back up and he comes out of the water and he's like, "You dropped this, Annabeth," and like the whole reason Annabeth like drops it in the lake is to like tell Percy like, "Hey, I'm in danger, need some backup," and it's so sweet. And then following that, we finally get the moment where Percy realizes, oh yeah, he can tell like how fast they're going, how many knots, where in the ocean they exactly are. He talks about Tyson. He talks to Tyson about, his water powers and Poseidon and stuff like that. It's really cute. Love some brothers bonding. Slightly different from the books. Percy does try to kind of control the tides. Oh my god, it's biting me. Around Charybdis, but he he doesn't do it all too well because again, Skilla is also attacking them, and stuff's it's just getting real crazy. But they also, for some reason, just don't use the thermos. Either there was two reasons, I believe. Oh gosh, how do I not have it down? Let me read. Percy doesn't really like. Ow! Why are you biting me? Sorry, my cat's biting me. Percy doesn't really like come up with the like. They don't really like have the idea to use the thermos. It's like a very last minute idea, and they're like, maybe we should use the thermos to like escape this. And then it's like the thermos is in the boiler room, and it's literally too hot for them to go to the boiler room. And then when Percy finally decided to go to the boiler room, he's like, Tyson's down there, I need to check on him. That's when Scylla grabs him and like tears him up in like grabs him and tears him up in the air. So the show is slightly different with that. Sorry, my siblings are screaming and I was trying to listen to them. They're being crazy. So I like the show put more action in, and showed us more of Percy, actually using his water powers. He literally is the son of Poseidon, and this is the sea of monsters. He has sea powers. Like, show us him using his powers more. It's a very beautiful and stunning action sequence. It's insane. Alrighty, so this is the end of the video. And those were all of the major changes and inclusions in episodes 3 and 4 of Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. Yeah, these episodes were actually incredibly accurate, and they were filled with a lot more inclusions than they were like, massive changes. Some were for budget and some not so. I can see why they cut, the whole monster donut forest scene with the Hydra fight because they wanted to put more budget into actually like showing us the proper Scylla and Charybdis fight and Percy using his powers, which again that probably took up like a lot out of the budget, so it makes sense. Yeah, these were lovely episodes, and those were some crazy chapters. And I cannot wait to finish the rest of the series for you guys and just keep on, talking about changes and differences because Percy Jackson is my hyperfixation, and I could talk about it till my deathbed, till the day I die. Like, it's so fantastic. Also, I have another video planned for really soon. Actually, I'm filming it tomorrow, so hopefully I'll have back-to-back posts for you guys. I'm I'm watching and reviewing Heated Rivalry. Oh my gosh, with my girlfriend. She's coming over, and we're gonna give you guys our live reactions to Heated Rivalry. I'm so nervous. I have not seen it at all. Like, I like MLM media, but I'm not always super interested in it, especially when it's something super popular, especially when it's like getting super popular by like, you know, straight women, not like truly being appreciated by the queer fandom. And also, I hate how much love and attention MLM shows get compared to sapphic shows. I have a very deep hatred for that. Me and my girlfriend might talk about that a little more in the video tomorrow. But yeah, we're gonna be reacting to Heated Rivalry for the first time together. I'm scared. Pray for us. Yeah. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and watch the other part, and keep an eye out for part 3. See you later. Coco says bye, and I say bye as well.